more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is The Show. John Madsen.
Welcome to The Show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is The Show. Welcome back. Super excited and happy to be here today. As of the recording of this episode, it is an interesting time. And depending on when you listen to this episode, I don't really like to timestamp episodes at all, because you could be listening to this episode a year from now, or you could be listening to it on its release date. So it could be irrelevant depending on when you listen to it, because the cool thing about audio and the cool thing about podcast is that the content lives on, and it just depends when a person is going to catch this single episode. But if you're listening right now during this time, the stock market has plunged. We are in the beginning of this coronavirus outbreak, and people are losing their minds. There's nowhere to park at Costco. There's no toilet paper. There's no water. There's a whole bunch of shit going on. And this is important for me to pre-frame this episode, because today we're talking about the mindset that's going to make you victorious regardless of what happens. It's a powerful episode. It's a powerful episode for every single person to listen to, because they have a choice. Even if you don't think you have a choice, you have a choice. And we're going to get into that. But it's important to know kind of what's going on right now, right here, as of this episode. The world is panicked. The world is in hysteria. People are afraid. We have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. And whether or not you believe that this outbreak or the media portraying it as such a huge deal is overhyped or underhyped or hyped just about right, doesn't really matter. I have no idea how serious this outbreak is. I've looked at the statistics. I'm no doctor. I'm no scientist, so I would just be speculating. But I do know that regardless of the hype, I'm personally not too concerned as much about the virus as all the repercussions and the ripple effect of the economy, of different industries, of small business, all the things that have a high probability of happening in the next month, 2 months, or 3 months. And this is where this podcast is going to be very powerful. What I'm going to share with you today is something that I've said many, many other times on this show, but maybe in a different way. In times of crisis, in times of uncertainty, in times of fear, no matter what happens, seemingly out of your control, things that may affect your business in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine 2 weeks ago that are now a dark reality for you. Maybe you're going to be forced to shut down. Maybe your 401k has lost $200,000 and you don't know if you're going to be able to retire or not. All of the terrible things that can happen financially, that can happen to your business, economically, not even to mention, what could happen if the virus is super serious, as much as they say so. But just in terms of economics and financial crisis that this might have on you and your business and your family, you have a choice. You have a choice. And this is my opportunity to stand up as a leader, as somebody who you listen to and hopefully trust. You have a choice, no matter how hard it is. You have a choice to wake up and to be victorious or to be a victim. You can be a victor or you can be a victim. No matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets. And the way that you do that, the way that the top 5% reacts compared to the bottom 95% is everything. And this isn't to say that some people are above others and some people are on top and other people are on the bottom. It's just a fact of life. There's going to be people who come out of this crisis in a better spot with different opportunity, with possibly better opportunity than they did going into it. And that doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. But you see, the champions have a mindset about them that no matter what happens, they have the choice to respond however they're going to respond. You have a choice when you wake up to look for possibility, to look outside the box, to look for different opportunity, or you have the choice to be a victim of your circumstance. But this is happening to all of us, all at once, all across the world, not in the United States, but across the world. All of us, all at once, have this external reality that we're facing at the same exact time. But the difference from person to person to person is going to be in a single person's ability or choice to stay in a positive mindset versus a victimhood mindset. That doesn't mean that we're going to be just ridiculously optimistic. We have to know what's going on. But we don't have to be consumed by the chaos that's inevitably going to be surrounding us for the next couple weeks, maybe for the next month, maybe for the next 2 months. A lot of us have businesses that rely on customers to go to them. And if there's shutdowns of states or quarantines or things that don't allow customers to come into the business, that is going to be a bad thing for the business. And we have to start preparing ourselves right now. What are we going to do? What are some opportunities that are going to come up from whatever we're going to face? Maybe temporarily we are defeated. Maybe temporarily whatever happens to us is very destructive to our financial world, to our business, to whatever it is that we care about. And even then, at the very end, when a person may hit rock bottom, there's that choice to get the fuck back up and be victorious or stay the fuck down. And that's where the magic happens, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you'll probably remember some of the chaos that's going on right now. And you're going to have a story about how it wiped you out, how it ruined everything, or how you used a temporary setback to think of a new idea, to think of a new way of doing business, to see a completely different possibility for you to get out of something that you didn't really want to be in the first place. Maybe it's a business and it takes you completely in a different direction and you take a right-hand turn. And you're going to have that story about success on the shoulders of chaos and crisis and uncertainty, because that's how champions think. That's how winners think. And that's how you have to think if you want to be in the same category as the winners you look up to, the entrepreneurs who seemingly have everything that you want, right? You don't know their backstory. You don't know what they went through. The purpose of today's podcast is to remind you of your immense power to choose your response to whatever you face. And I wanted to stand up today and to tell you in this show how important it is for you to be a leader of your family, for you to be a leader of your community, for you to be a leader of your business, for you to be a leader of your employees. Because everywhere you go, people are looking around and waiting to be led. In times of crisis, you can see fear. You can see fear in your children's eyes. You can see fear in your spouse's eyes. You can see fear in your employees' eyes. And you can choose to be afraid too, or you can choose to be a fucking warrior and to fight and to see possibility. No matter how much the odds are not in your favor, you have the choice. And if we're talking about this virus, this is the way I think about it too. I was listening to a podcast on the Joe Rogan show yesterday, a scientist, a guy who knows a whole shitload about this stupid fucking virus. And he says that the one thing that's going to hurt Americans so much more than even some of the other countries is the other factors that people have if they contract this disease. And the number one thing that he listed is obesity. Something that we absolutely can control. And he read off some statistic that however many people in America are obese, and that's going to be problematic for illnesses. That's always problematic for illnesses such as the flu and other stuff. Different risk factors. So my challenge to you, and the whole reason I do this fucking podcast in the first place, is to persuade you, to influence you, and to lead you to become a fucking champion of your own life. And that means getting your ass up off the couch. That means getting to the gym. That means training yourself like a fucking warrior. That means getting enough sleep at night. That means taking the right vitamins. That means eating the right high-performance foods. That means having your energy and vitality on fucking point, because if you do all that shit, your immune system is going to be far better off than the person who's sitting on the couch eating fucking potato chips, watching the news, and worried about the fucking disease. The world needs leaders, not people who are glued to their TVs, frozen in fear, instead of going out and actually doing something about it. So here's the deal for every single person. What are you going to do? Are you going to be frozen in fear? Are you going to prepare? And are you going to do every fucking thing you can to train yourself up, to train your immunity up, to train your employees up, and to come out like you're the fucking Spartans in 300 up against the world? Because that's what the fuck I'm going to do. And that's what I think you should do too. This podcast is important. The show today is important. Because if you're out there and you're listening, we need leaders. We don't need a bunch of people running around afraid. We have kids that are going to be afraid. And we need to be leaders. For them, we need to be leaders for everybody. We need to be leaders for our community. So I'm urging you and hopefully inspiring you to stand up, to lead, to train, and to think of possibilities instead of limitations. That's what's going to separate you and all the other people. In these times especially, in times of uncertainty and doubt and fear, we need to do the alternate. We need to bring some certainty. We need to bring that leadership. And we don't need to sit around and wait. Do your part. Lead by example. Lead from the front. And understand that your mindset is the most important thing that you have for you right now. You have the choice. You can be a victor or you can be a victim. I want every single one of you listen to this show because you all have the power to do so, to be a victor.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.